Amp2.tv presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on Amp2.tv. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Hey, welcome to Tell Us Your Biz. I'm Jennifer Gutschmidt, and today we are here because this show is kind of a carryover from Thursday's show where we talked about aliens, alien abductions, who runs the world, and with me is the artist Sabora. And Sabora, coincidentally enough, which you know I don't believe in coincidences.
No coincidences in the world.
Has the same, I guess, thoughts and, I don't know, beginnings of like the aliens and what does it all mean and why are they here and why did they choose me? And I'd first like to thank you so much for my gem.
Oh my God, you are so beautiful.
I love this.
And I hope that you wear it well and have amazing experiences behind it and because of it. Thank you for that amazing welcome. I am so excited to be here today.
Well, apparently we were meant to continue this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because we started it on Thursday. You were put in front of us coincidentally.
Yes.
Again, no.
No accidents in the universe.
None. And what first we started talking about was you as an artist.
Yes. I am exactly an artist, but I have been a fascinating hobbyist of aliens, mysteries, any type of things dealing with theoretical, just the mystery of it.
But and even more so is that has driven your artwork.
Yes, I have been heavily influenced by mysteries, anything that's unexplained. I started off being excited about the Bermuda Triangle, and the Bermuda Triangle led to Atlantis, which led to the lines of Nazca, and it goes on. And each one of those mysteries, they lead to the subject that we're here talking about.
That's right. So right off the bat, we can look and we see your artwork. Oh, can you explain who that is?
God, that's one of my characters. Her name is Anka. She is a blind belly dancing ninja. And her purpose is to teach one of the main characters, self-esteem, to teach her how to really embody her body and her power.
And speaking about being heavily influenced by aliens and alien visions
stories
and encounters, this is beautiful.
I love that piece of work that we just looked at. And it was driven by frequency. Like it has a lot of musical notes in it. And I believe under the water, you get sonic vibrations. And I also believe in USOs, which is underwater submerged objects.
Interesting. Because there when we talk about aliens and UFOs, people always think about
the
up
ones
in the sky. But there's the water, there's hollowed earth.
Yes, the hollow earth theory.
And there's the Arctic.
Yes, where everything that's going on in the Arctic.
That's
the frozen entrances.
Wow. So these are beautiful. And one thing I will tell you that strikes me about your artwork is, although it's thematic, it's not, one doesn't look like the other. So you know what I mean?
Yes.
It has a uniqueness to each piece that you can own many pieces of your artwork without it looking redundant.
Absolutely. I mean, people have seen so many different things in my art. People have argued over it. People have said, oh, well, I see this and I see that. I actually had a critic tell me that it was extremely reflective. So whatever deep thoughts would be mirrored in that reflection of what you saw when you looked at it. So no two people see the same things.
Which is so interesting. Art is supposed to be provocative and it's supposed to get you to think and
feel something. They say true art makes a person feel something, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, or exciting. Some people look at art and they cry. Some people look at art and they see absolutely nothing interesting and their head goes from one side to the other and then they move on to the next piece. And I always thought I wanted to be the type of artist where people actually just don't walk away from it very quickly.
Well, and even just looking at this, nobody's going to walk away from that quickly because when you first look at it, you think it's one thing, but upon reflection, when you look at it a little more deeply, you'll begin to start thinking about, well, what am I thinking about? And what does that say about my belief system
Right.
and my ability to have an open mind?
Yes, open-mindedness. I think we're coming to a time in history where open-mindedness is starting to be a lot more open versus people just being closed in their thoughts and not entertaining anything other than what they've been taught or what they've been shown or what they can actually see. I think people are starting to be more intuitive. I think the consciousness is being raised. That's why we can have conversations about aliens on the air. And not worry
Without
about the
being
drive home.
Somebody like carting us away and in a straight jacket.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As we looked at your artwork, first of all, where can people see your artwork?
My artwork is on Subbora.com, SUBBORA.com, and I have art in museums. I also have art all over the internet. So if you want some art, please let me know. And I do originals and murals, also starscapes. So if you ever want to have the most amazing holographic star scene painted on your ceiling or your environment, please let me know.
I love that.
It's
My
exciting.
gosh, that's really nice.
Yes.
And all of this had to come from somewhere.
Yes,
This
absolutely.
influence. We had a guest last week. We talked about his abduction. I asked you that question because apparently now I ask everyone, have you been abducted?
Have you been abducted? Have you been abducted?
I think I'm just going to do it in Publix from now.
Have you been abducted?
That's right.
I mean, it's an interesting thing because some people will tell you that they have and they haven't. Some people have. I have never been abducted. I've had some interesting encounters. When I was younger, my father used to always travel. Our family would travel from Washington, D.C. to Georgia, and I would point at the sky and I'm like, it's something up there, and I believe it's following us. And, they're like, oh, don't worry, boo, that's just our protection. And I'd get in the car, and I'd see these, dancing lights just follow us most of the trip. And I used to find it comforting. I was never afraid or worried or like, oh, my God, what in the world? So I've had some really interesting experiences.
Give me an example of an encounter that you've had that really, I guess, shaped or drove your curiosity for this.
I've always been curious since I was very, very young. I used to spend a lot of time in the Martin Luther King Library in Washington, D.C. researching. And a lot of homeless people would just sit around me and they'd look at my stack of books and they'd be like, soon you're going to be looking at alien books. And I was like, really? No, I'm not really interested in aliens. But all of those mysteries would lead to that. And eventually, I found myself in the teen room with a big, giant book because I looked up Project Blue Book, and most of the information was redacted. And it was no Google back then. And I ran into a lot of closed doors when it came to actually doing scholarly research. So it was one of those things. On the scientific side, I was extremely interested. But as an artist, art is all about expression. So what better medium than to express some of the things that I couldn't explain or understand?
So when you get this book and it's redacted,
Yes.
that right away, a light bulb goes off and you're like,
It did.
something's not right here.
I mean, it was one of those things where it was like following a puzzle, and then certain pieces kind of go together, and then when you get to that particular book, it's like it's so big, and then to open it and just see, dates, times, places redacted, it kind of led me to believe that it was a lot of truth in it, because why would you hide something that, you didn't want people to know, or we wanted people to know? So it was a very interesting kind of masquerade, so to speak.
And that took you on a journey to live in the woods.
Actually, no. I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Cherokee. I wanted to go on a spiritual journey. But before I actually moved to Cherokee, I ended up in a situation where we were going around close to this, like a lake. And I saw the most beautiful glowing light come out of the lake. And it was really close to us. And I don't really remember a lot of things that happened after, but I remember a light coming towards us, another car. And then the light just kind of went back down, and it looked like a ship. So it was so interesting and so beautiful. And I was in the car with two other people. One person saw it, the driver didn't see anything. So we found it to be an amazing experience.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Now, we did have a conversation about Roswell.
Yes.
And that's apparently like, the homeland for alien enthusiasts for sure.
I think it's a lot more to it than most people realize. And one of my favorite intriguing theories is that when the alien, ship supposedly crashed in Roswell, one of the aliens that survived was a female. And this is a theory that I heard that I found to be fascinating. And on the ride over, like when they were taking her in this car, it was like a lot of males in the car, and it was a female nurse. And they were trying to do the vitals, and they said telepathically, the aliens started to tell them the story about Earth being a prison. It was a prison planet, and it was these beings that were sent here that weren't from here, and they were to be rescued. But most of the time they would be here and they would forget where they came from. So they were saying it was like this interesting rescue that were going on, and a lot of people who passed away here, they reincarnated here. So that's a favorite theory that I have, and I have others.
So then you subscribe to the idea that obviously we're not alone, but
Absolutely.
walking amongst us.
I also subscribe to that idea. I remember once my father made a joke, that people would be so closed off in their little boxes and staring at their devices that they wouldn't, see what was going on around them. And it's really interesting because if you just go out in normal public, people are so busy staring at their devices that they're not looking. And it's a really easy way to keep people kind of, not paying attention. And I believe that aliens walk among us all the time.
One of the theories that I had heard, and I had heard this a few times, is the fact that our government allows them to come here or allows them to abduct citizens, and in return, the aliens give technology.
Yes.
Have you heard this?
I absolutely heard it in a more detailed and exciting way. I was talking to an ex-military person, and they gave me this, this really interesting thing that I didn't quite think of. We were talking about the Bermuda Triangle, and they said there was a trading post, and that a lot of animals and beings from different, I believe there's a lot of different types of beings, not just, the typical kind that they say abduct people, but some that study and research. They even talk about the moon concept. So this particular ex-military person explained that the technology that we've been using is been recycled. And even though we think it's all new, you can look at, ancient astronaut theories where they show images of Wi-Fi on the ancient walls. And a lot of ancient cultures have, historical stories on their walls of space travel. And sometimes when people interpret them, it's like, wait, I think that's, a form of technology. So I definitely subscribe to that, especially having studied technology for a long time.
And what you have your degree?
I have a degree in technology, industrial design, and also in business. So when you get into technology, it's such an interesting thing because I used to teach an invention and innovation class. And in that class, we talked about, how, wearable technology was changing. And you get into quartz crystals, and it's like that's a form of knowledge that most people don't realize. Their phones, all these touchscreen devices, they have crystal technology in it. And it can, they say one little slither of crystal can actually hold all of the information from all of the computers on the whole planet. So my subscription to the alien theory is that they're just way more intelligent. Their lifespan is extremely different. So the information that we're now scratching the surface, they've been using it for many, I guess, millennials or years, or however it can be stated.
Did you hear this thing where I think it's in Canada, people are getting chipped?
Yes.
That's an interesting thing. Whose idea is this to get chipped? When you think about trading people for technology, that's the first thing I thought of what do you know what goes on the chip?
I think they say that a microchip is the size of a piece of rice. They say most people who've been incarcerated have been microchipped. They microchip animals. But it's like a tracking device to kind of keep up with people, what they're doing. You go to the grocery store and they get you to use your card. It's like they want to get you in the motion of swiping your hand. So it's one of those interesting concepts of technology versus spirituality versus where the direction of humankind is going. So I think it's a topic that definitely can be explored further.
Well, I definitely think I think about technology, now they have the ability to clone.
Yes,
Which is
absolutely.
incredible. I remember back in the day when Dolly the sheep got cloned, people were saying that's crazy. And now people do it because they loved their dog.
Yes.
And that dog passed away, so now they're
Yes.
cloning a dog.
And if you think about ancient Egyptian technology, if you think about the art on the walls, you'll see images of something with a bird head and a lion body. And a lot of that technology is starting to resurface again. And I think that, the way that the concepts work, if something that is way more intelligent, then you present you with tools and abilities to test and explore. And that's what's happening. The experimenting is definitely going on. And I think a lot more is going on behind the scenes than the average, person even thinks about.
Which then I think gives credence to your idea that the devices are meant to distract. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they call it the World Wide Web. And you think about, you get caught in a web, you're not going to get out. That's usually a sticky, thing. I don't want to get into too many conspiracies because, the dollar bill has like 6 spiders on it, and they show you the web and the intertwinedness. And when you get so caught into the web of life and technology and the internet, because they call it the internet, but I think all of it's by design, and it's one of those things that eventually people won't be asking as many questions because they'll be pacified, so to speak.
And on top of that, it'll be what they always knew. I had heard a statistic that kids by the age of 2 understand how to work an iPad.
Yeah, they have call them the glow children. So it'll be interesting to just see how, the technology plays out because, your level of interaction, your level of being able to be human. They
Right.
say people don't necessarily want to be human. One of my most intriguing alien theories is that humans are actually going to turn into the little short aliens with the big heads and the
Really?
little bodies and the big eyes. Because think about it. If you're staring at your device and you're not necessarily using your mouth, so it becomes smaller over elevation. And if you're using a lot of your brain structure to be, analyzed, like think about people who have 10 or 2 or 4 screens in front of them. They're multitasking, so your brain gets larger. You're sitting a lot, so you're not necessarily using your muscles. But I'm not sure where I heard that theory, but I think it was like the ancient aliens. But it's one of those interesting theories because you think about just, people are less interactive. They're more, and their eyes are starting to, and you think about over time, how a human might look.
And I definitely think people are less interactive. I heard that a lot of millennials don't really even have friends.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It's very sad.
Because they say that it's kind of like the main thing that you would associate with being a human is starting to kind of be questioned and be challenged based on just how people are experiencing life that we are so excited about. Instead of actually experiencing it, it's like you're watching it on a screen.
Right, yeah. So get outside and play, people. I think that's
It's
what we're saying.
important.
Go outside.
And talk to people,
Yeah.
say hi. It can really make a difference in someone's life
I agree.
and their mental health.
And then maybe if you're not so distracted by your device, you will be a little more receptive to some sort of
Yes.
encounter and to see what's going on around. And
Yes.
you never know when you're going to see a light come out of the water like you did.
Or out of just the sky and come towards you and take off again,
Right. Wow. It's all so fascinating. Like I could go on and
We
on.
could.
Yeah. I want to ask you your process as an artist.
Yes.
When you are ready to create art, you just it comes to you and then you just got to start going.
It's one of those things where it comes to me, and I love to listen to music, especially Prince, while I'm painting. I love to, and it's one of those things where I think it's like they say your creative energy is your sexual energy, and all of that energy, comes from your sacral chakra. So it's like when you are in creative mode, it's like art is one of those forms of expression that I believe is also therapeutic. When you get into dance therapy, art therapy, music therapy, it's like it frees something and it kind of keeps you grounded and in touch. even though, it might seem like an artist might be in their own little head. It's like a lot of times their receptors are up and they're feeling the environment, the energy and everything that's around them, and it's being expressed and put into a digital format or a canvas or something like that.
Wow. Now, when you start a piece,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what it's going to look like when you're finished, or do you?
Never, unless it's a commission
Yeah.
and somebody's like, so I need you to do this and that. But I have always loved to paint. And I remember once I painted for like 11 hours straight, no food, and I was in college and there was a bunch of guys at my window watching. I had no idea they were there, and I realized because I had this giant painting like up on the wall, and it was the most amazing thing to just be able to create like that without restriction. So never know what it's going to turn out. I love to just kind of listen intuitively and intuitively paint. And I love to teach people how to intuitively paint because they usually feel so much better when they're done.
Do you give art lessons, classes?
Yeah, I've been teaching I've taught over 37 different forms of art.
Oh my God, I didn't even know there were 37 forms.
I mean, it's just so many different like you could do paper, like paper in itself. You could take an X-Acto knife and do very detailed work with paper. You could create paper. You could take paper and create sculptures. It's so many different forms of art that, anyone can learn. It's just what you're exposed to.
I could put that to a challenge for sure. Anybody can learn because
anyone can learn, and it's one of those things where I always tell my students there is no wrong in art. Express yourself, and usually you get the most exciting results versus trying to limit someone, put them in a little box, and your painting has to look like this.
Right.
Everybody has a different gift or a different story or a different expression to have.
That's
so
my experience.
I try to facilitate that.
See, that's really nice because my experience in high school from my art teacher is not a good one. And I would do, I'm not very artsy like that.
Most people say that, but it's no wrong in art. It's an expression. So even though someone judged you and made you feel like that, I'm here to tell any young artist, apologies.
Oh, no worries.
That,
Just turn it
that that it's okay to just paint or draw or whatever it is that makes you feel good.
Right. And be self-expressive.
You have to express yourself
Yeah.
because if not, you're holding in a bunch of toxic, energy. I apologize.
No, it's a live show. It's all good. No worries. But that's a very interesting thing because now you're going to be healthier.
Yes.
Self-expression.
Mentally health and confident.
Right.
Because one of the things, like I believe art is science. I believe math is music. And I remember being in high school and our art teacher literally made us sit outside and stare at a tree for like 2.5 hours. And the whole time, it was like, don't draw anything. Don't write anything. I want you to just look at the tree. And the more you stare at a tree, like you'll actually see it moving and you'll see ants crawling up it. You'll see cracks and crevices. When you're being a realistic artist, you can really look at a person and observe things about them that no one else would ever see, and it's one of those things where observation theory, it all goes back to science. So art is a form of science because you're putting down a theory on that canvas. This is your theory or interpretation of, what's in front of you.
Wow. All right. Well, I want to make sure people, again, go to your website. Your website again
is Subbora.com, Subbora.com, and Subboraism on Instagram. So that's Subboraism.
And I want to point out your pocketbook for one. Talk about art, wearable art.
Wearable art.
I mean, you bring her everywhere you go.
I love bringing Anka everywhere I go. And it's such a fun thing because most people have no idea that, I drew the character and they look and, some people will recognize my name and say, wait, you did that? And I'm like, well, you can do it too. Let me show you how,
And do you have a studio that you work out of? Where do you
I
work?
used to be in the Boynton Beach Art District. I'm definitely looking for another studio space. I'm really looking forward to doing like a beautiful spirit book club. We were doing body painting. Oh my God, it's so much things that you can do with art. So I'm looking forward to finding a new studio home and definitely getting some really cool classes, vision board workshops. I really want to combine spiritual, just therapy with art.
Right, and just to make
And
it a
help
whole
people express
mind,
themselves.
body, soul kind of experience.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, and then when people walk away, they walk away with their artwork, but it's really reflective of them.
And they feel better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the most simplest, easiest way, it's like instead of talking to someone, it's like you're getting that out on something else versus just dumping all your feelings or something, or just holding them in. You know, people have layers and layers of trauma that they push down and they hide.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to express that is healing.
And that's why I think art therapy has done so well, even with like the Alzheimer community.
Absolutely.
Because that gives people a chance, like you said, especially with somebody like you who is such a giving, kind spirit.
Thank you, beautiful.
Yeah, so that they would be able to really not be so depressed about everything that's going on
And
around
it's a
them.
lot. I mean, they say people are more disconnected. They feel more lonely. They feel like they're making all these connections on the internet. But they say that it's like, it's still like they feel like something is missing.
Right.
The nurturing of it isn't there.
Right,
So,
right. Well, thank you so much for coming in,
Thank
first
you
of
for
all.
having me.
So many things that we talked about along the lines of, we started out with this idea of aliens and then really ended with how art can heal you. And that's
I'm sure the aliens
key.
will want that too, right?
Yeah, some of them I think, some of them not so
Some
much.
of them, yes. Some of them not so much.
And this is one of the reasons why I love doing these unscripted types of
It's important.
chit-chats.
Yes.
Because we have the idea of starting one place and then it morphed,
Evolves.
which is great, and it really tells about you. One more time, how do people find you?
Subbora.com, Subbora.com. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me.
Oh, of
I'm like
course.
super excited to continue our conversation.
Absolutely. I look forward to that as well. Thank you so much for joining us on Tell Us Your Biz. And don't forget, look away from your devices. Take some time to really maybe be a part of an encounter and be open-minded.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Have
Thank
a great
you,
night,
beautiful
everyone.
spirit.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866-224-5422. This has been an amp2.tv production. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were